Good afternoon, everyone. And I want to thank the Master of Ceremony for that beautiful introduction. Thank you very much. And actually, I feel so much humbled, but at the same time privileged to have this opportunity to share an experience about Uganda with you. The last presenter did almost half of my presentation. That's what happens always when you are the last presenter. But however, I look at it from another perspective. Talking about Uganda and immigration, I would like, first of all, to make general observations about Africa. Talking about cultural diplomacy in Africa, one always must be careful not as to reduce Africa to one single state. Africa is broad. Africa is diverse. It has diverse cultures, diverse nations, and diverse people. Africa has diverse history, both pre-independence and post-independence history. It's different. And all of these have contributed to individual states, to what they are today. So when you talk about cultural diplomacy in Africa, also you need to be informed of the pre-independence history and past or post-independence history. You cannot talk about cultural diplomacy in Africa, of course, without talking or being aware of the influence and impact of colonialization in Africa. Some of these colonial trends are still evident in Africa, and they influence the politics of Africa. Africa, therefore, is a continent that has a lot of advantages and disadvantages. And one of the disadvantages, of course, as the previous speakers have clearly outlined, is the issue of poverty, the issue of, I'll talk about these ones as I summarize, religious, ethnic conflict, and the issues of governance. I will highlight those as I summarize my presentation. Now coming back to the topic of my presentation, Uganda and immigration. I don't know how many of us would locate Uganda on the map, but just by a glance, Uganda is around here, Eastern Africa. So Uganda is located in East Africa and lies across the equator about 800 kilometers from the Indian Ocean. It is a landlocked country. It lies between 1029 south and 4012 north latitude, 290 and 34 east, and 350 east longitude. The country is a landlocked country, bordering with Kenya in the east. There's Kenya in the east, and then we have in the north, Southern Sudan. We have Democratic Republic of Congo in the west, Tanzania in the south, and Rwanda, of course, shares the same border with Tanzania in southwest. It has a total area of 241,551 square kilometers, of which the land area covers 200,523 square kilometers. In terms of weather and climate, Uganda enjoys a sunny weather most of the year round, with temperatures rarely above 29 degrees Celsius, that is 84 degrees Fahrenheit. The average annual temperatures are about 26 degrees Celsius, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Annually, Uganda has two sets of rain seasons. We have the short rains that begin March through May, while the long rains begin from October through November. The population of the country is 34.6 million people, out of which 55% are below 18. So 55% of our population is a younger population. It has over 50 ethnic groups, with each with its own unique way of life, thus making Uganda a country with a diversified culture. In terms of peace and stability, Uganda is considered the most stable country in the region, with business booming throughout the night. If you arrived in the capital, Kampala, at any time of the night or at any time of the day, business goes on. That is an indication that there is somehow some stability and peace. Actually, since 1962, when the country attained independence, there had never been peace and stability that Uganda has enjoyed until 1986, when this present government came in under President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Because of the existing peace in the country, our capital, Kampala, is known as the city that never sleeps. Whatever hour you arrive, there will be life in Kampala. Uganda is a God-fearing nation. This is reflected, guided, and informed by our national motto, "For God and my country." That is our national motto, "For God and my country." And also in our national anthem, as the previous speaker put it, "O Uganda, may God uphold you. We lay our future in thy hands. United, free for liberty, together we shall always stand." Though as a country we do not have an established state religion, every Uganda subscribes to one or the other religion, highlighting the value of freedom of expression and worship enshrined in the national constitution. Freedom of worship is a constitutional right. Now, talking about immigration, initially I had wanted to speak about two types of immigration. The first one is the voluntary one. The second one is the involuntary, which the previous speaker well emphasized and elaborated. Migration in Uganda. Immigration as a concept has a number of meanings. For the case of our discussion, however, I will use the Oxford Dictionary definition, which explains the concept as the action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country. You leave your country, you go to live in another country because of a number of reasons, of which I will not go in details today. Three critical factors have informed Uganda's immigration policy. Number one, of course, our culture as a nation that stresses the value of friendliness and hospitality, especially for visitors. In our informal education, that is the education that a child acquires from home, this value is emphasized, that you must always be open and friendly to foreigners. Just to give an example, when I was growing up in my little village at home, my mother used always to tell us that you will never, we fetch water from the river. So sometimes the home runs out of water. So our mother used to say, we cannot go to sleep without a drop of water in the house. For one simple reason. If a visitor comes at night, if you don't have anything to give him or her, at least offer him a glass of water. So hospitality and friendliness to visitors. And when you are a visitor walking in and around Uganda, actually, everybody will be readily available to give you all the assistance you need. because being a religiously built country, people always think that when you welcome a visitor, a stranger, you are welcoming an angel, and all the blessings remain with you. So that is one of the reasons that inform our immigration policy. Of course, number two, I talked of our national anthem, which the previous speaker also emphasized. Our national anthem emphasizes good neighborhood, that we must live in harmony with others, in harmony with the environment, and in harmony with the created world. So this poses a question: who is my neighbor? The biblical question: who is my neighbor? And anybody who is in need is my neighbor. So Uganda looks at anybody who is in need to be a neighbor. And you have the duty and responsibility to always care for the concerns of the neighbor. Then the third point is our history. Again, the previous speaker outlined it very, very well. Uganda has had a very, very hostile post-independence history. Actually, since 1962 until 1986, Uganda experienced a number of civil wars, to the extent that at one time, Uganda was considered to be a failed state. I think in Africa, it is the country which has the most presidents so far. Some lasted long, others as long as less than a year, 7 months, because of the political turmoil that we have gone through. And because of this instability, many of our people had to flee the country and lived in exile. So many of our people, especially those in authority now, they know the bitterness of exile. And because of that bitterness of exile, that's why they have formulated open door policy to receive refugees. That anybody who runs and knocks on our door, we must be readily available to open. And when we open and they come in, we must be able to show them love and concern, remembering our own history, that we too at one time have been refugees. And as refugees, we have received hospitality from others. And because we have received hospitality from others, there's no way we can say we have given enough. You can never give enough. Also, the African hospitality comes in, because in Africa, we don't believe in numbers, using the same experience. When I was growing up, and in many poor families up country, in Africa, you share a bed with your brother with a small blanket. And at night, everybody is pulling the tiny blanket to the other side. This one pulls it this side. By the time it's daybreak, nobody has it. You are all as. You see, that is the vulnerability of being poor. So in Uganda and Africa at large, actually, numbers don't matter. What matters is the heart. When you are given a potato, you don't look at your own individual needs. You have to also be aware of the needs of others. You divide the potato, and the mother would be watching. If she gives you, and your brother is there, has nothing to eat, and you just grab and eat alone, she will give you a slap, get the potato from you, and gives it to the brother, so that you know the value of sharing, that we have always to share. So those are the three factors that inform our immigration policy. In terms of immigration, we can talk of two types, namely the voluntary and the involuntary. Voluntary immigration, those people who out of their free will, work or business, choose to freely leave their own country to go and live in another. Such categories include tourists, labor immigrants, investors, and businessmen and women. These, we look at them as voluntary migrants. Out of their own will, they choose Uganda as their destination, and they want to live with us. So concerning voluntary immigration, Uganda, gifted by nature in terms of tourism and investment, has plenty of wonderful experience and opportunities to offer to its visitors from all over the world. Referred to as the Pearl of Africa, the country, despite lying astride the equator, has a nice warm and wet weather throughout the year, with plenty of fresh tropical foods and fruits that one can enjoy. Both fauna and flora are so unique and typical of Uganda, from the mountain gorillas to the snow-capped Rwenzori block mountains in the west. So these are the gifts of nature that have given the image of Uganda to be conceived as the Pearl of Africa. The story of the Ugandan Martyrs, celebrated every 3rd of June annually, has become a global religious touristic destination. Uganda, every 3rd of June, celebrates the feast of the Ugandan Martyrs, Ugandans, younger Ugandans who were killed for their faith in 1886 and have been canonized as the saints in the Catholic Church. And because of that gift, every year, many people from across the world come to Uganda, some on foot, some using other means to come and participate in this great event. Last year, of which I missed narrowly because I arrived here on the 31st of May and takes place on 3rd of June, it is reported that over 3 million people participated in this great event. And every year, the numbers keep going high and going high. So if you really would have loved to participate in one of the Christian events, I would invite you to make arrangements to come and participate in the celebration of the Ugandan Martyrs. It is a unique experience to see people from different cultures from all over the world coming together to speak one language, the language of faith. That really humbles you and say, well, I think if these people are here, there must be a power from above. And that power from above that draws them all across their worldviews, culture, color, and race is none other than God. The diversified environment of our national parks, which offer an enriching experience to tourists, is typically unique for Uganda as the Pearl of Africa. The food. Because of the favorable climate, the country enjoys fresh and organically produced variety of foods and fruits. The common dishes are bananas, specially prepared uniquely in the Ugandan style, rice, meat in all its forms, fish, all forms of vegetables, beans, maize, bread, cassava, potatoes, and yams. The variety of fresh fruits that one can find in Uganda are mangoes, oranges, pineapples, grapes, apples, jackfruits, almost exclusively common in Uganda alone in the whole of East African region. We also have avocados, passion fruits, and so many others. All these are organically produced and fresh from the garden. Because of the natural pastures that the cattle in Uganda feed on, milk produced has a unique flavor. So if you want to come and taste milk that has a unique flavor, please better buy your ticket and fly to Uganda. In order to provide our visitors with less cumbersome access to and from the country and promote the tourism sector, the government has put in place mechanisms that can help foreign visitors access visas either from our embassies abroad or at the entry point into the country. You can have your visa right at the airport or at any border so that you are not bothered by the cumbersome bureaucracies. Uganda government takes security of both person and property as number one priority. Because of this, the government has put in place good mechanisms to guarantee the security of the country, both from within and outside. Investment opportunities and promotion. Uganda as a country is in the process of transforming itself, transitioning from basically subsistence agroeconomy to a modern industrialized nation. In order to attain this goal, the government has embarked on the task of attracting potential investors to come and invest in various economically viable opportunities that are available in the country. Such opportunities exist in agriculture, processing, manufacturing, information communication technology, transport, tourism, oil and gas, and mining, hotel, and other services sector. In accordance with the National Constitution, Article 40, Clause 2, that states, every person, foreign or domestic in Uganda, has the right to practice his or her profession and to carry out any lawful occupation, trade, or business. The government of Uganda, therefore, has embarked on an aggressive venture of attracting investors in the country by putting up very good policies that favor investment. For this to take effect, the government has put in place both friendly investment environment and policies that can attract potential investors. Among many are creating industrial parks with land and infrastructure, tax holidays for investors, friendly capital investment terms of financial policies which favor investors, and the reduction of non-tariff barriers, including bureaucratic delays, by providing a one-stop center that addresses the concern of potential investors. All these are intended to, attract investors in the country. However, despite a few challenges, efforts of attracting investors face, the World Investment Report 2013 has identified Uganda as the first favorite destination for foreign investors in the whole of the East African region. Involuntary migration, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this because the previous speaker really highlighted everything. One, maybe I would talk about some of the challenges that Uganda as a country face, of which some already have come up. We have the challenge of poverty versus democracy. Here the question is, can you have democracy where almost 95% of the people live in extreme poverty? That is the challenge as a country we are grappling with. Do people understand the concept of democracy? What type of democracy are you talking about? Of course, there are some basic values that we cannot compromise, but contextual democracy in the case of Uganda is still a very big challenge because of poverty. People, especially the peasants, are easily manipulated by the political elite who focus mainly on state house. They don't care about the needs of the people. I mean the political elites. Their focus is on state house, who gets there and who comes out. They will use all the means to make sure they access state house. They don't care about whether innocent people are dying or not. The recent example, of course, of Kenya is still vivid in our minds. So we have poverty that undermines the democratic process of Uganda and Africa as a whole. Governance, of course, democracy goes with governance. This one is affected by the number of reasons. And one of the biggest and critical reason is what Professor Carl mentioned, religious conflict. He only left out another aspect which goes with this, religio, tribal, ethnic conflict. These are really very serious problems in Africa and in Uganda at large. Before I came here, that was 2006, in one area, Western Uganda, we lost over 200 people because of religio-tribal clashes. And of course, The cause of these clashes are mainly power. The masses are manipulated by the leaders to give the impression that, we have to fight for our cause as a tribe, as a religion. So religion is used as a tool. Tribe is used as a tool to help those political elites attain their own political ambitions, which are usually selfish ambitions, which have disregard for the local people. So tribal, religious, ethnic tensions and conflicts are still very, very evident in Africa and in Uganda today. Of course, the other issue is the issue of corruption. Corruption has eaten us up to the nerves of our Ugandan society. And to make it worse, it is highly institutionalized. It is the big fish that are in the game, to the extent that the small ones, really, they are just eaten up by the big fish. They manipulate the population for their own personal interests. And as a result of this, poverty continues to be a vicious circle in Uganda and Africa at large. In conclusion, I know time is not on my side, I can say that Uganda, like any other emerging economy of the world, still has some few challenges of which I have highlighted. 95% of our people are peasants. They survive on subsistence agriculture. It is only for God and my stomach. And because of that, fighting domestic poverty is a big problem. And this now is aggravated with, again, this issue came up, population explosion. In a country where almost 95% are surviving on land, and where population is growing every other day, there is the challenge of land fragmentation. Because land is looked at as the only resource. And because families are big and large, when the father passes away, the land is fragmented and fragmented and fragmented. In the long run, survival becomes very, very difficult. I talked of unemployment of young people. We have high rates of unemployment. When you see many of our young people, dying to come to Europe, they think there is a better world in Europe. It's better, somebody was telling me, it's better to die a beggar in Europe than to die a landlord in Africa. And you say, what? To reach that extent? And for some of my African brothers and sisters who have experienced the European life, you can bear with me. It is really tough. People are doing everything to the extent of even selling the little land for the family. Somebody will convince the family that let us sell this land we have so that I can go to Europe, and when I get to Europe, I shall have arrived in heaven, then I'll send manna from heaven and everybody will be okay. So this is a very, very big problem. The way forward is our leadership, political leadership, must come up clearly with an agenda. A genuine agenda that is not motivated by selfishness. An agenda that puts the African person, a Ugandan person, at the first priority. You want to go to the State House, yes, but what do you want to go there to do? To serve your own personal interest or to serve the interest of the people? That is a big challenge we shall have to grapple with for the time being. And my brothers and sisters who are still here, Africans, we cannot afford to bury our heads and say, for us, we have arrived here, and therefore, no, we have to remain part and parcel of our African communities in order to help our society become a better society. Thank you very much.